Hello everyone, we are continuing to populate our mega terrarium with fauna. Today we will replenish the tropical biome with the contents of this box, which the sender took the time to brand with stickers. We won't blur anything because it turned out to be free advertising. The new inhabitants of the terrarium are tropical Pristomyrmex ants. Contrary to expectations, the second package did not contain ants but rather their food, a medicine man beetle. Another package contains a small formicarium with a family of Temnothorax ants. Thank you to our subscribers who suggested options for populating the terrarium with ants. Some say that having two different ant colonies in one terrarium will lead to war. Today we will find out. For those who don't know, our main goal with the terrarium is to create a closed ecosystem that functions with minimal outside interference. There are herbivorous insects here, such as the biosis bug and the Drosophila fly. There are also a large number of sanitation workers and terrarium cleaners. There are several species of woodlice, 2 species of springtails, and even worms. They eat mold, food debris, and the waste products of other insects. There is also a group of 10 different predatory spiders that will control the population of other colonies in our tropical terrarium. It's hard to imagine an ecosystem without ants. Our terrarium is no exception. Let's start with ants in a test tube. This species likes to build its nests under leaves and in rotten wood. We have an interesting piece of the latter, and under stones. We have chosen the location for their new home, which will be among the forest mosses. We are making a small depression in the ground for it. After just a little digging, we saw an abundance of underground sanitation workers. We lay leaves from the tree on the ground and press them down firmly. Next, we place the hollowed out piece of wood on top, which has an incredible abundance of passages. Living in such a labyrinth must be a pleasure, but only time will tell if they will like it. We put a few more leaves on top and press them down with a stone. The result is a multi-story house where you can live under a stone, a tree, or leaves. Now it's time to replace the ant's test tube with a giant terrarium. We twist off the cap, remove the cotton wool and place it next to the new house. The ants that were sitting on the cotton wool were the first to enter the terrarium. I wonder if they will go back to the test tube for the others, or if each ant will have to find its own way out. Now we have the opportunity to take a closer look at the ants. As I said, these are Pristomyrmex punctatus, the 43rd inhabitants of our terrarium. These tropical ants measure only 2.5 to 3 millimeters in size. One of them wanted to return to the test tube, but after weighing the pros and cons, he decided against it. So far, only a few individuals are exploring the new environment. Most of them are in no hurry to swap their plastic home for a terrarium. It took them 20 minutes to start coming out and exploring their new surroundings. Let's add a little light to the test tube. This will speed up the relocation process. As we can see, it worked. More and more ants wanted to get out. Now that there is excitement outside, the ants are bustling about, exploring the new space and looking for a place to build their new home. While the Pristi are relocating, let's take a look at the Temnothorax. These ants are even smaller than the previous ones, reaching only 2.5 millimeters in size. Unlike the previous ants, these are a full-fledged colony. We can even see tiny eggs here. They are rather beautiful ants, yellowish-brown in color with a ring-shaped spot on their abdomen. While gathering information about ants, I read that Temnothorax ants often settle in acorns, so I prepared a few acorns before their arrival. It would be great if we could recreate the conditions of the wild. The main requirement is that the acorn be hollow, so we remove the core. Incredible, isn't it? It's amazing that a whole colony can live in such a small space. To make room for them inside the acorn, we shave off a little of the core. I created this arena using a tube to help the ants acclimate to the new conditions. I poured some substrate from the terrarium into the arena and tamped it down slightly. I only took a little soil, but there are so many springtails here. The soil is teeming with arthropods. Place an acorn in the arena. Cover it with the second half. Almost everything is ready for relocation. All that remains is to cover it with a ventilated lid. Then we connect it to the Formicarium, which has a special plugged hole on the side. This is the system we ended up with. We hope our plan works. Now all that's left is to be patient and wait. The first scouts have already set off. They come up one by one, stopping about a centimeter away before turning back abruptly. Maybe this one will overcome the invisible obstacle. Come on, brother. It seems that the ants are repelled by the smell of the silicone glue I used to attach the tube to the arena. After many attempts, all the ants came back. I had to build a new arena. This time I will put the tube inside and only seal the cracks with silicone. I hope this design works. Attempt number 2. Connect. It turned out to be a crossroads, left or right. So far everyone prefers to go left. However, less than 5 minutes later, the first scout was already in the right arena. Lo and behold, he found an acorn almost immediately, probably thanks to his instincts. As time passed, more and more ants appeared in the new arena. Some came to watch. Others left to tell the others about their incredible discovery. They told them that they now had the opportunity to exchange their plastic home for a natural one, like the ones their ancestors had described. As it turned out, these were not fairy tales. Such a thing really existed, just a little lyrical digression. After a little more time passed and no one went left anymore, we were able to disconnect the defective arena. Now everyone rushed to the right. While the Temnothorax are busy relocating, let's return to the Pristomyrmex in the terrarium. The important thing is not to confuse the names. They have almost completely left the test tube and are swarming the ground. It's time to discuss them as a species. They are an extremely interesting species. Then again, any living organism is interesting if you study it. But ants are also social. You may have noticed that they are dark brown. They are omnivorous, but in the wild they behave like predators and hunt small arthropods such as Collembola. They also love sugar syrup, diluted honey, and fresh fruit. The most interesting thing though is the peculiarity of the colony. In this species, all ants are asexual workers. The Pristomyrmex punctatus species does not have a queen in the traditional sense. All workers are female and reproduce parthenogenetically or without fertilization. They lay eggs from which new workers hatch. There is also a division of labor. Young ants care for the brood and lay eggs, while older ants forage for food. Conflict often arises within families regarding how to allocate resources, to work, to search for food, to care for the young, or to reproduce. Those who only want to lay eggs can safely be called cheaters. Essentially, they are like cancer cells in that they reproduce and use the family's resources, ultimately weakening the family. They are nomadic ants that often change nests. Additionally, when choosing a new nest, ants can collectively evaluate several options. They scurry around the terrarium in search of a new shelter. Even rain cannot stop them. The raindrops fall, but the ants continue their search. After the rain, it seems that there are more of them. Even those who wanted to wait it out have become active. Everyone has left the test tube, so we can remove it from the terrarium. The ants seem to like our structure. They are exploring it from top to bottom. Before the ants scattered, I threw them a beetle to eat. At first, the beetle tried to burrow into the ground, but the ant's movement prevented it from doing so. Then the beetle began to climb to the surface. The ants seemed indifferent to the nearby source of protein. I later read that ants are fed larvae, not beetles. Incidentally, the beetle is also fascinating to observe. Here it is, apparently feeling free as it spreads its wings. Then the beetle showed that it had wings, though it could not fly. While watching the ants, I encountered this red arthropod by accident. At first I thought it was a red Collembolan, but it was larger than an ant. Collembolas are small, but this was larger than an ant. It also looked very similar to a spider. It is a red velvet mite, a species of Trombididae. This useful predatory mite feeds on other insects and pests. It grows to a length of 5 millimeters. The adults are predators and the larvae parasitize insects. They are not dangerous to humans. I wonder what other creatures our terrarium is home to. Observing ants in the wild is very interesting. They run around, bustle about, and swarm. Seeing how they feed is interesting too, so we threw them a beetle larva. One ant immediately discovered the protein supply, approached it and began to examine it. Apparently recognizing the familiar taste, the ant had probably eaten the larva many times before. Then more ants approached. They are apparently not interested in food right now because they have another task at hand, finding and organizing a nest. Then from the test tube of Pristi ants, a species emerged that was completely different from the others. However, it was very similar to Temnothorax. How did it get into someone else's test tube? It separated and walked on the bark alone. There are also woodlice under the bark. They drove out the cockroaches that had settled here and took their place. There is Gamarus and a piece of rotting apple here, so why wouldn't they live here? While I was removing the ants from the test tube, I noticed one ant, followed it, and found its home. Now let's go back to Temnothorax. They have already started to move, but slowly. We need to speed them up. We can do this by shining a light on them. Ants avoid bright light because they perceive it as a danger signal. Bright light signals that they are outside the protected anthill, so they try to hide in the dark. Besides, it's already nighttime and I'm still bothering them. And it worked. The ants have already started moving their babies to the new arena. They look so cute. They take incredible care of them and interact socially. There are fewer and fewer ants in the formicarium. Everyone is busy moving and working. They began carrying eggs too, following the babies. But wait, what's this? It looks like all the workers are going to a small piece of coal instead of the acorn. The ants don't care about our plants. They have their own preferences. I removed all the stones under which they could hide and left them alone until morning. In the morning, not a single ant remained in the old house. In the new arena, only a few ants were walking around. For some reason, they brought pieces of soil. They probably dug it up, but they don't look for the easy way out and carried it away. It's time for us to play excavators. There is no one under the acorn, just as there was none inside. However, when I lifted the sphagnum moss, I found a colony. Unfortunately, our plan with the acorn did not work. If it had been successful, we could have connected it to the terrarium right away. Let's get started. First, make a small depression in the terrarium. Next, place a leaf in the depression. Then place hollow acorn pieces on the leaf. Now, don't give up on the idea yet. Ants can fit inside an acorn cap after all. Cover it with a couple more leaves. Sprinkle soil on top. This is a complete imitation of conditions in the wild. Place the ants nearby. Put the tube under the leaf and wait. The first ants appeared in the tube almost immediately. Good scouts never waste time. They are exploring a world that is even more wonderful than yesterday's. Perhaps yesterday some of them carried soil away for the first time in their lives. Today they discovered a huge space with an abundance of shelters, burrows and passages. There are leaves and bark from trees and plants. Everything is just as great-grandfather described. Incidentally, many scouts are walking on the same bark where their lone comrade Temnothorax was yesterday. Could they have smelled him? He must have left traces. Then the two scouts met and started talking. Watching ants is really interesting. One said, One said something to the other and led him over to show him his discovery. They have incredible social connections. By the way, the Pristomyrmex ants that we settled yesterday came to see the new settlement too. How curious they are. Maybe they like the structure made of leaves and acorns. They've probably already explored the terrarium from top to bottom in a day. Yesterday the ants refused the larvae. Let's offer them a different treat. Sugar syrup. The lid with cotton wool looks shabby in the terrarium, but it will do for now. I tried to figure out where the ants had made their nest, but it's extremely difficult. They scurry around the entire terrarium chaotically. They're like a crowd of children at school during recess. They do so individually, not in groups. Apparently they are scouts. After closer examination, I finally found some social connections. Here are two ants standing and discussing something. One shared information with the other, who then left. Then another ant appeared out of nowhere. The first ant changed his mind and came back. They gossiped and left. Since they walk in pairs, they can be followed. We found an ant trail where the ants walked in pairs under a tree. Though it may appear to be just an ant walking, it is actually following a scent. As soon as it strayed from the scent marker, it realized its mistake and returned to it. The marker is a black pebble. This ant followed the same route under the log. It would be interesting to know if they have a nest under the log or if they go there in search of something. Here's another ant confirming that the turn marker is indeed a pebble. Here comes another ant. You will now see how it passes by, deviating quite far from its course. Then it realizes its mistake and returns. Many of them go behind the back wall of the terrarium. Is there something tasty there, or is there a nest after all? It would make sense if the ants took the syrup and carried it home, but for some reason they refused the syrup. They pass by it every time. However, the biosis bug decided not to turn down such a freebie. He clearly appreciated our treat. At least someone did. 5 minutes later, 2 Temnothorax ants arrived. They hadn't even settled into the terrarium yet when they started sipping syrup. Then another ant joined them. Word of the treat quickly spread. Now we can follow the ant. It will most likely show us where the ants have decided to build their nest. The ant is tiny and walks in a zigzag pattern. As a result, I lost sight of it. Let's keep an eye on the others. The bug wanted to leave but changed his mind and came back. He's a funny character too. I was watching the ants when I saw something more interesting. One ant was dragging another ant, or rather a baby ant. It's not moving very fast with its load. You definitely won't lose it in the crowd of other ants, so you can follow it and find out where the ants built their nest. The ants chose a spot on the bark, and now the ant has dived into a tiny hole with its load. This is what the bark looks like from the side. They will now have to climb down the tube from the jar into the ground and then climb back up to the bark. It's a long way. Apparently all our efforts with the acorns did not appeal to the ants. Here's another baby they brought. Then a small tragedy occurred. An ant was walking along a tube and dropped its baby. Fortunately, it wasn't very high up, so the ant was able to find the baby ant and carry it back to the nest. He probably won't tell anyone what happened though. Not everyone is busy with the move. Here, one ant is leading another to show it the source of sweet syrup. Temnothorax ants are not very nimble, and given the long journey, the move took almost a day. I opened the lid, but that didn't help. The ants stubbornly continued walking through the tube. The next day after the move was over, I poured the soil from the arena back into the terrarium, completely burying the leaves. Now next to the ants' underground home, there is another little house with acorns just in case they change their minds. As soon as I offered the ants a larva, they immediately pounced on it. The Temnothorax ants didn't refuse the syrup or the protein. One of them has already found a larva and is dragging it into the house. In short, these guys are busy working, for the good of the family, of course. Some are already crawling all over the terrarium, looking for something new. I placed the same larva right in the path of the Pristy ants, and they began to avoid it, which seemed strange. Most importantly, no matter where the ants come from, they all go under the log. This means their anthill must be nearby. We lift the tree and look. We also found a bunch of wood lice here. They literally live next door to the ants. The ants also live next to the cockroaches. Here come 2 ants. We can track their anthill. Then another ant came. They seem to be having trouble finding their nest. It's as if the ants have made the tree their home. I found several ants in different places on the tree and started watching to see where they would go. Are they collecting building materials here? Then I found their nest. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's movement inside. One ant came out and another is walking around inside. There's even a guard standing watch near the entrance to keep out cockroaches. In short, this isn't a tree, it's some kind of dormitory. Remember that bedbugs live in this same tree. There was probably also a spider that was disturbed by the ants. It had to leave when they appeared. It was driven out. Maybe it was even driven out of its own home. Who knows? By the way, who said the presence of 2 ant colonies would lead to war? In the first 3 days after they moved in, we didn't see anything like that. They coexist quite peacefully. At least for now. We'll see what happens next. That's all for now. Bye-bye.